Emily stared at her former boss, now handcuffed to the hospital bed, tubes snaking from her arms, monitors beeping steadily in the background. The woman's eyes widened with recognition, then fear. "You," she whispered hoarsely. How did I survive?" Emily finished, pulling up a chair. Her smile was cold as she placed a small vial on the bedside table. "The same way you won't. You thought you were so clever, slipping drugs into my champagne at my own promotion party. But I saw you, Victoria. I always see you." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And now you're going to feel exactly what you intended for me. Only I won't leave you in some stranger's bed with missing memories. No, I'm going to watch as you realize exactly what's happening to you. As you feel your body shutting down. As you understand that this time I switched the glass." Victoria's heart monitor began to accelerate as Emily uncapped the vial. "Let me tell you how we got here." 3 months earlier, Emily Harper rushed through the gleaming glass doors of Sinclair Global, coffee in one hand and portfolio in the other. The spring morning sunshine streamed through the windows of the towering skyscraper, but Emily hardly noticed as she hurried toward the elevator. "Hold it, please," she called, relieved when a hand shot out to stop the doors from closing. "Cutting it close today, aren't we?" The cool voice belonged to Victoria Maxwell, head of marketing and Emily's direct supervisor for the past 2 grueling years. "Traffic was terrible," Emily explained, smoothing her blazer. "But I'm still 5 minutes early." Victoria's perfectly painted lips curved into what might generously be called a smile. At 42, she maintained the sleek, polished appearance of someone who considered aging optional and weakness intolerable. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun that accentuated her sharp cheekbones and calculating blue eyes. "The Blackwell presentation starts at 9 sharp. I trust you've finalized the numbers I sent back to you last night?" Emily nodded, trying not to show her exhaustion. Victoria had emailed extensive revisions at 11 p.m., which had kept Emily working until 2 a.m. It wasn't the first time, nor would it be the last. "Everything's ready. I've added the additional projections and revised the market analysis as requested." "Good." Victoria examined her manicure. This account could mean everything for the department. For the right person, it could even mean a promotion to senior marketing director. The elevator doors opened, and Victoria stepped out, her designer heels clicking rhythmically against the marble floor. "Don't mess this up, Emily." Emily bit her tongue as she followed Victoria to the conference room. For 2 years, she had endured Victoria's micromanagement, credit stealing, and barely veiled sabotage. But Emily had learned to document everything, work twice as hard, and build allies throughout the company. The Blackwell account was her chance to finally prove herself beyond Victoria's shadow. The presentation went flawlessly. Emily had prepared for every possible question, anticipated every concern, and by the end, even the notoriously difficult CEO of Blackwell Enterprises was nodding appreciatively. "This is exactly the fresh approach we'd been looking for," he said, shaking Emily's hand firmly. "You clearly understand our vision." Victoria smoothly stepped forward. "We're thrilled you approve. Emily has been a valuable assistant on this project. My team and I look forward to implementing the strategy we've outlined." Emily felt the familiar sting of Victoria taking credit, but kept her professional smile in place as the executives filed out of the room. "Well done, James Richardson," the company's COO, said to Emily after the others had left. "That was impressive work. I'd like to see more of your ideas in the future." Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly at this exchange, her smile never wavering. "Thank you, sir," Emily replied. "I'd welcome the opportunity." As James left, Victoria's pleasant facade dropped. "Clean up the conference room and email me the presentation notes. I need to brief the creative team." Over the next few weeks, Emily noticed Victoria watching her more closely than usual. Twice, Emily caught her boss going through files on her desk. Once, she discovered Victoria had scheduled a meeting with a key client without informing her. But instead of confronting her boss directly, Emily documented everything and continued to build relationships throughout the company. Then came the announcement that changed everything. James Richardson was creating a new position, Executive Director of Strategic Marketing, and encouraging qualified team members to apply. "You should go for it," urged Michael, Emily's closest colleague, over lunch in the company cafeteria. "Your work on the Blackwell account alone makes you qualified." Emily stirred her salad thoughtfully. Victoria would never allow it. She'd sabotage me somehow. "Apply anyway," Michael insisted. "Richardson makes the final decision, not Victoria. And he's clearly noticed your work." That afternoon, Emily submitted her application, carefully listing her accomplishments and contributions that Victoria had often claimed as her own. She knew it was risky, but after 2 years of being undermined and overlooked, Emily was ready to take a chance. She wasn't surprised when Victoria called her into her office the next day, her expression glacial. "I see you've applied for the executive director position," Victoria said, her voice dangerously calm. "That was ambitious of you." "I believe I'm qualified," Emily replied evenly. "My track record speaks for itself." Victoria laughed softly. "Does it?" "Because from where I sit, you're an adequate assistant who occasionally has good ideas. Nothing more. With respect, Victoria, the Blackwell account was secured because of my relationships and strategy," Victoria cut in sharply. "Don't overestimate your contribution, Emily. It's not attractive." Emily maintained her composure. "I understand you're applying as well. May the best candidate win." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Indeed. Though I should warn you, I don't respond well to disloyalty. And applying for this position without discussing it with me first feels very disloyal." The threat was clear, but Emily refused to be intimidated. In the following days, she noticed Victoria excluding her from important meetings, assigning her menial tasks, and speaking to her condescendingly in front of colleagues. But Emily remained professional, focusing on building her case for the promotion. The interviews took place over a week. Emily prepared meticulously, presenting a comprehensive strategy for expanding the company's market share. She walked out of her final interview feeling confident but wary of Victoria's inevitable retaliation. She didn't have to wait long. The next morning, Emily discovered that her access to certain client files had been restricted. When she questioned IT about it, they informed her that Victoria had requested the change, citing security concerns. "She's getting desperate," Michael commented when Emily told him. "That means you're a real threat." 2 days later, the company-wide email arrived. Emily Harper had been selected as the new executive director of strategic marketing, effective immediately. The office buzzed with excitement and surprise, everyone except Victoria, who remained behind her closed office door for most of the day. When she finally emerged, she approached Emily with a tight smile. "Congratulations. It seems James was quite impressed with your creative approach." "Thank you, Victoria," Emily replied cautiously. "We should celebrate," Victoria continued, her tone warming artificially. "In fact, I'll host a little gathering at the Pinnacle tomorrow evening. For the team to toast your success." Emily was immediately suspicious. Victoria had never shown interest in celebrating anyone else's achievements before. But refusing would seem ungracious and might create unnecessary tension as they adjusted to their new roles. "That's very kind of you," Emily said. "Thank you. It's the least I can do," Victoria replied. "After all, we'll be working together quite closely in the future. Just in different capacities." The implied threat wasn't lost on Emily. Victoria wasn't someone who accepted defeat gracefully, and Emily knew she would need to stay vigilant. The Pinnacle was one of the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurants, with panoramic views and prices to match. When Emily arrived the following evening, Victoria had secured a private section and invited the entire marketing department along with several executives, including James Richardson. "Emily." Victoria called, waving her over with uncharacteristic warmth. "You're just in time. We were about to toast your success." Emily approached cautiously, noting how Victoria had positioned herself at the center of attention, playing the role of gracious mentor. "A glass of champagne for our rising star," Victoria said, personally handing Emily a flute of bubbling liquid. "Everyone, please raise your glasses to Emily Harper, our new executive director." As the group lifted their glasses, Emily caught a strange glint in Victoria's eye. Something predatory, triumphant. And then she noticed, Victoria wasn't drinking from her own glass. She merely touched it to her lips, pretending to sip. "Speech," someone called, and Emily found herself the center of attention. As she began to speak, thanking her colleagues for their support, Emily discreetly watched Victoria. The woman's eyes never left her, watching intently as if waiting for something. When Emily paused to take a sip of her champagne, Victoria's expression shifted subtly to anticipation. In that moment, Emily knew. The champagne was tainted. Without missing a beat in her speech, Emily casually set her glass down on a nearby table. As she moved around the circle, thanking people individually, she deliberately left her glass behind and picked up a fresh one from a passing waiter. Victoria's expression flickered with confusion, then annoyance as she realized Emily hadn't consumed the doctored drink. Throughout the evening, Emily noticed Victoria growing increasingly agitated, checking her watch, glancing at Emily's new glass with barely concealed frustration. When the party began to wind down, Victoria made one last attempt. "Before everyone leaves," she announced, "I've ordered a special vintage red wine to mark this occasion." She personally poured 2 glasses, handing one to Emily. "A toast, just between us. To new beginnings." Emily took the glass, noting how Victoria watched her hands, her face, with intense focus. Around them, people were gathering their things, engaged in conversations, paying them little attention. "New beginnings," Emily echoed, raising the glass. Victoria raised hers as well, once again only pretending to drink. Her eyes never left Emily's face, waiting. In a smooth motion, Emily switched their glasses. "Actually, I think this one has more bubbles. You don't mind, do you?" Victoria froze, her expression hardening momentarily before she recovered. Of course not." Emily smiled pleasantly. "To new beginnings, Victoria. May we both get exactly what we deserve." Victoria stared at the glass in her hand, the one she had prepared for Emily. For a long moment, she seemed caught in an impossible situation. If she refused to drink, her plan would be obvious. If she drank. With visible reluctance, Victoria raised the glass to her lips and took the smallest possible sip, then quickly set it down. "Delicious. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to speak with James before he leaves." Emily watched her hurry away, abandoning the tainted wine. The evening had confirmed what Emily had long suspected: Victoria wasn't just a difficult boss, she was dangerous. And now that Emily had been promoted above her, that danger had escalated significantly. Over the next few days, Emily settled into her new role while keeping a wary eye on Victoria. The older woman had become unnervingly pleasant, offering assistance and praising Emily in meetings. But Emily wasn't fooled by the sudden change. She began documenting everything, saving emails, recording meetings, with disclosure, of course, and keeping meticulous notes of all interactions with Victoria. She also quietly began investigating her former boss, reaching out to people who had worked with Victoria at previous companies. What she discovered was disturbing. 2 former assistants had left abruptly after health issues. Another promising employee who'd been poised for promotion had suddenly resigned after what was described as erratic behavior at a company event. There was a pattern of talented people who threatened Victoria's position mysteriously faltering just as they were about to surpass her. Emily took precautions, never eating food Victoria had access to, installing a small camera in her office, and making sure she was never alone with the woman. But she knew she couldn't continue like this indefinitely. Victoria wouldn't stop until she had eliminated the threat Emily posed, either to her career or her carefully constructed image. The breaking point came 3 weeks after Emily's promotion. She received an urgent call from Blackwell Enterprises, their biggest client, concerned about significant errors in the campaign strategy that had just been implemented, errors that hadn't been in Emily's original presentation. When Emily investigated, she discovered that Victoria had deliberately altered key components of the strategy after it had been approved, creating failures that would reflect poorly on Emily's leadership. Fortunately, Emily had kept her original files and was able to prove the changes hadn't been hers, but the damage to her reputation could have been devastating. That evening, Emily made a decision. Self-defense wasn't enough, she needed to remove the threat Victoria posed, permanently. Emily began by gathering evidence. She recovered the security footage from the Pinnacle showing Victoria handling only Emily's drinks. She located the discarded wine glass from the party and had it tested, revealing traces of a powerful sedative. She compiled testimonies from Victoria's previous victims, who had remained silent out of fear but were willing to speak now that someone was finally listening. But most damning of all was what Emily found when she accessed Victoria's company email archive, something she now had authority to do as executive director. Hidden in encrypted folders were years of correspondence revealing Victoria's systematic sabotage of colleagues, manipulation of data, and even evidence of embezzlement from client accounts. Armed with this information, Emily could have gone to HR or even the police. But she knew Victoria would find a way to twist the narrative, to paint Emily as the vindictive subordinate trying to destroy her former boss out of spite. Victoria had survived similar accusations before. She had connections, influence, and the benefit of her carefully cultivated reputation. No, Emily needed Victoria to expose herself. And for that, she needed to set a trap. Emily arranged for another celebration, this time ostensibly to mark the successful resolution of the Blackwell crisis. She made sure Victoria knew there would be executives from headquarters attending, people whose opinion could make or break her remaining career at the company. The venue was an exclusive club with private dining rooms and, crucially, extensive security cameras. Emily had spoken with the management in advance, expressing concerns about corporate espionage and requesting extra surveillance of their room. When the evening arrived, Emily made sure to be the first to arrive, positioning herself where she could observe the entrance. Victoria arrived precisely on time, elegantly dressed and carrying a small designer purse that seemed slightly bulkier than necessary. "Emily, darling," Victoria greeted her with air kisses. "This is such a lovely idea. I'm so glad we've moved past our misunderstandings." "Life's too short for grudges," Emily replied pleasantly. "Would you like a drink?" "I was just about to order." "Let me," Victoria insisted. "After all, you're the guest of honor." Emily watched as Victoria approached the bar, noting how she positioned herself to block the bartender's view as she ordered. When Victoria returned with 2 martinis, Emily smiled and accepted the glass. "The others should be arriving shortly," Emily said, casually setting her drink down without taking a sip. "I just need to make a quick call, I think James is lost." She stepped away, pretending to make a call while actually sending a pre-written text. When she returned, she noticed Victoria checking her watch anxiously. "Is everything all right?" Emily asked. "Fine," Victoria replied tightly. "Just wondering where everyone is." "Oh, didn't I mention? There's been a slight change of plans. The executives had a last-minute emergency, so it's just us tonight." Emily smiled. "Actually, I think it's better this way. We have so much to discuss." Victoria's expression flickered with annoyance and something else, calculation. Emily could almost see her recalibrating her plans. "Your drink is getting warm," Victoria noted, nodding toward the untouched martini. "So is yours," Emily countered, noticing Victoria hadn't taken a sip either. A tense silence stretched between them before Victoria laughed lightly. "Well, this is silly. Let's toast properly." She picked up her glass and held it expectantly. Emily picked up hers as well, but as they clinked glasses, she deliberately fumbled, spilling both drinks across the table. "Oh. I'm so clumsy," Emily exclaimed, quickly dabbing at the mess with napkins. "Let me get us fresh drinks." Before Victoria could object, Emily had signaled the waiter. "2 fresh martinis, please." And could you bring them directly to the table? Thank you. Victoria's face tightened with frustration. When the new drinks arrived, delivered by the waiter and made under their direct observation, Emily raised her glass again. To clarity, she said meaningfully. And to finally seeing things as they truly are. Victoria hesitated before taking a small sip. Emily did the same, watching her former boss carefully. For several minutes, they engaged in superficial conversation, Victoria growing increasingly impatient as she realized her plan, whatever it had been, was not going to work. You know, Emily said finally, leaning forward, I've been meaning to ask you about something strange that happened at my promotion party. Victoria stiffened slightly. Oh? Yes. I could have sworn I saw you switch our glasses. But that would be absurd, wouldn't it? A respected executive trying to. What? Drug her colleague? For what purpose? Victoria's smile was glacial. You have quite an imagination, Emily. Perhaps the promotion has gone to your head. Perhaps, Emily agreed pleasantly. Or perhaps I'm just finally seeing clearly. Like how you altered the Blackwell campaign after approval. Or how 2 of your former assistants ended up in emergency rooms after company events. Or how convenient it was that Bradley Mitchell had that breakdown right before he was going to be promoted over you at Westfield Media. Victoria's face had gone pale, her composure cracking. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Emily pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. Because I have the tainted wine glass from the party. I have testimonies from your previous victims. I have evidence of your financial manipulations. And most importantly, I have footage of you drugging my drink tonight. Victoria's eyes darted to the ceiling, noticing the security camera for the first time. You can't prove anything. I already have, Emily said calmly. The board received a complete dossier this afternoon. They're meeting tomorrow morning to discuss your termination. I just wanted to see for myself if you would try again. And you did. Victoria's composure shattered completely. You ungrateful little bitch. Do you have any idea who I am? What I can do to you? I know exactly who you are, Emily replied evenly. A fraud who's built her career by sabotaging others. And you can't do anything to me anymore. Victoria lunged across the table, grabbing Emily's throat with surprising strength. I made you. I can destroy you just as easily. Security guards, alerted by Emily's text earlier, rushed into the private room, pulling Victoria away as she screamed threats and accusations. The entire incident was captured on the club's security cameras, the final nail in Victoria's professional coffin. The next morning, Victoria was escorted from the building, her career at Sinclair Global finished. But Emily knew it wouldn't end there. Victoria was vindictive and had little left to lose. The woman had attempted to drug her twice, there was no telling what she might do next. Emily took precautions, varying her routine, installing a security system in her apartment, and remaining vigilant. For several weeks, there was no sign of Victoria. According to office gossip, she had left the city entirely. Then one evening, Emily arrived home to find a small package at her door with no return address. Inside was a single glass vial containing a clear liquid and a note, "You think you've won. You haven't even begun to understand what losing means." Emily immediately contacted the police, who confirmed the vial contained a lethal dose of a rare, difficult-to-trace poison. They increased patrols near her apartment but admitted that without proof of who had sent it, there was little they could do. For the next week, Emily lived in a state of constant vigilance, jumping at shadows and checking every package, every drink, every unfamiliar face. Then came the news: Victoria Maxwell had been admitted to Metropolitan Hospital after collapsing in a hotel bar. The doctors were baffled by her symptoms, they resembled poisoning, but they couldn't identify the toxin. Emily knew immediately what had happened. Victoria had prepared another attack, but somehow had exposed herself to her own poison. It was the opportunity Emily had been waiting for. Disguised as a hospital administrator, Emily slipped into Victoria's room during visiting hours. The once formidable woman lay pale and weakened, connected to monitors and 4 lines. When she saw Emily, her eyes widened with recognition and fear. "You," she whispered hoarsely. How did I survive?" Emily finished, pulling up a chair. Her smile was cold as she placed a small vial on the bedside table. "The same way you won't. You thought you were so clever, slipping drugs into my champagne at my own promotion party. But I saw you, Victoria. I always see you." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And now you're going to feel exactly what you intended for me. Only I won't leave you in some stranger's bed with missing memories. No, I'm going to watch as you realize exactly what's happening to you. As you feel your body shutting down. As you understand that this time I switched the glass." Victoria's heart monitor began to accelerate as Emily uncapped the vial. "Nurse!" Victoria tried to call out, but her voice was too weak. "Help! No one's coming," Emily said calmly. "They're changing shifts. We have about 10 minutes, which is more than enough time." "Please," Victoria begged, tears forming in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I'll confess everything. Just don't do this." Emily studied her for a long moment. "You know, the interesting thing about your collapse is that the doctors can't identify what's poisoning you. They've tried standard treatments, but nothing's working because they don't know what they're fighting." She held up the vial. "But I do. This is the antidote. I had it made as soon as I identified the poison you sent me." Victoria's expression shifted from terror to desperate hope. "Give it to me. Please. I'll do anything." "Anything?" Emily echoed. "Like confess to attempting to poison me? To sabotaging other employees? To embezzlement?" "Yes," Victoria whispered. "Anything." Emily placed a digital recorder on the bed. "Then start talking." For the next 5 minutes, Victoria confessed everything, every person she had sabotaged, every crime she had committed, every detail of her plans to destroy Emily. When she finished, her face was wet with tears of shame and fear. "The antidote," she pleaded. "Give it to me now." Emily picked up the vial and held it thoughtfully. "There's just one more thing you should know, Victoria." "What?" "There is no antidote." Emily's voice was soft. "Because there was no poison. At least, not from me." Victoria stared at her in confusion. "But I'm sick. The doctor said." "You poisoned yourself," Emily explained. "Whatever you were planning for me backfired. Maybe you accidentally ingested it while preparing it, or maybe you got the dosage wrong. I don't know and I don't care. What matters is that you're dying by your own hand, not mine." Emily stood up, pocketing the recorder and the vial of harmless saline. "I didn't come here to kill you, Victoria. I came to watch justice happen. And to get your confession, of course." "You're lying," Victoria gasped, her breathing becoming more labored. "You did this to me." "No, Victoria. You did this to yourself. Just like you've done everything else." Emily moved toward the door. "The police will be interested in your confession. As will the families of the people you've hurt over the years." Victoria's monitor began to alarm as her vitals deteriorated. "You can't leave me like this." Emily paused at the door. "Actually, I can. But unlike you, I'm not a monster." She pressed the nurse call button before slipping out. "Goodbye, Victoria. I hope you find the peace you've denied so many others." As Emily walked away, she heard the rush of medical staff responding to the emergency. She didn't know if Victoria would survive, and she realized she didn't care. The woman had received exactly what she had planned for others, no more, no less. Outside the hospital, Emily breathed deeply, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The recorder in her pocket contained everything she needed to ensure Victoria never harmed anyone again, regardless of whether she survived her self-inflicted poisoning. Emily had started this journey seeking justice, perhaps even revenge. But standing there in the fading evening light, she realized she had found something more valuable: freedom from Victoria's shadow and the knowledge that she had stopped a predator without becoming one herself. She had switched the glass, literally and figuratively, redirecting Victoria's poison back to its source. And in doing so, she had reclaimed not just her career, but her power. As she walked away from the hospital, Emily deleted Victoria's number from her phone. She wouldn't be needing it anymore. The woman who had tried to destroy her was now destroying herself, and Emily's future stretched before her, finally unobstructed. It was time to write a new chapter, one in which Victoria Maxwell was nothing more than a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition without ethics, and the inevitable consequences of treating people as pawns rather than colleagues. Emily smiled as she hailed a taxi. Sometimes justice didn't need to be served, it simply needed to be witnessed.